This presentation is brought to you by the Beer Isaac in Cervecia Veritas and by the CyberCore Integration Center, whose motto is CyberCore. S4 OT cyber people, some of you I've come to know as brothers and sisters, and all others, at the very least as friends, from the US and many other countries. It's great to be with you again. One thing we all have in common is Defender DNA. It's very similar to that deep gut level feeling you have when you think about protecting your family and close friends. But at a higher level of abstraction, it's about protecting your community, your country, and in a very real sense, civilization itself. The drive to defend can be applied to all hazards, and it's something we have in common with the women and men in the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, police, firefighters, and folks in FEMA and the Red Cross, as well as every other kind of first responder. 2 years ago at the S4 conference, just before the pandemic arrived in full, parenthetical shout out to doctors and nurses, yet more members of the Defender tribe, I gave a climate-oriented, unsolicited response on mounting climate physical risks to infrastructure, noting that while we and our IT side cyber defender comrades spend almost every waking hour seeking to master the challenges that attend our ever more automated world, we are overlooking a major risk. The natural world is changing, perhaps extinction-level meteor strikes notwithstanding, more rapidly than it ever has before, or at least since we Homo sapiens showed up. But show up we did, and how. Evidence of our impact is everywhere in this era aptly labeled the Anthropocene. But like the invisible gorilla in the famous experiment, with our attention focused elsewhere, we fail to see what's right in front of us. Some are aware and are working the emissions mitigation problem with renewables, energy efficiency, electric vehicles, and if my colleagues in Idaho are successful, new ways of generating nuclear energy that are safer and much more affordable. However, very few folks are working the other side of the problem, that being the need to enhance the resilience of critical infrastructure and begin to proactively adapt to both what's already here and what's clearly coming. Unprecedented heat, drought, wildfires, flooding, melting permafrost, and storms of increasing frequency and ferocity. Just look at 2021 and the dozen or so years that preceded it. The impacts and consequences of global weirding are arriving earlier and accelerating faster than many scientists had anticipated. Depending on the geography in question, all of these are taking their toll on electricity generation, transmission and distribution, and driving changes in load as well. And of course, interdependent infrastructures must be kept functioning too. Lots of water is needed to cool thermal plants and create steam to drive turbines, and electricity is needed to purify drinking water and treat wastewater. Gas pipelines and compressor stations, recently revealed as vulnerable in the form of the Colonial ransomware attack, ferry the fuel that helps generate almost 40% of US electricity. I'm sure most of you are already well versed on these issues, so now I'm just going to say it. You may hear more than a little CCE in this. We need to identify the most critical of our critical infrastructure assets and prioritize by the severity of the impact should they be allowed to fail, to then devise engineered protections and or functional adaptations so that our way of life might continue, less disrupted, while others continue to work to reduce emissions and even begin the necessary removal of greenhouse gases from our oceans and atmosphere. Will we be able to pull this off, given the multifold potential calamities that now confront us? It's far from certain. There is a need for speed here, and the challenge is way beyond walking and chewing gum. I'd say more like juggling 10,000 flaming swords. So distracted, so diverted, so attentive to something else, it's sometimes difficult to see what's in our immediate field of vision, and even more challenging to ascertain what's coming around the corner. In cyber parlance, we call this threat intel. You know, catching the attackers and their attacks left of Tim Roxy's boom, or in other words, before they're launched. And it appears we just did that with Pipe Dream Ink Controller. That was a huge win for us. Kudos, cyber defenders. But as the IPCC and National Climate Assessment reports state with increasing confidence, Far worse things are on our doorstep, and every ensuing year will be worse. So to sum, please don't stop or even slow your crucial cyber defender work. But please know that while you persevere in your specialized cybersecurity disciplines, we must also defend critical energy and interdependent infrastructures from physical risks already arising, and with an eye on preparing for even more destructive phenomena we know are coming. If we do a good job and stay ahead of these impacts, cyber and climate, then maybe, just maybe, we humans can also create the kind of future we all want. Thanks a lot.